How's everyone doing? My name's Justin. I'll be walking you through the mobile portion of the day. So I love talking about mobile, one of my favorite topics. I talk to my wife about it all the time, and she never listens to me, naturally. But I talk to clients a lot about mobile. And one thing I hear is that mobile is very complicated, and it's complex. We have apps, we have web, we have attribution, we have cross-device. We have all these things that make it very complicated. So my goal for today is to give you a framework you can use to simplify everything, to get rid of the noise, and to basically focus on key pillars for mobile that are going to set you up for success for your export strategy and really any mobile strategy that you're going to embark on. But to kick it off, I just want to run through a few numbers just to kind of talk through the size of the mobile market and some of the key insights that might be relevant for your export strategy. Okay. Oh, there we go. Sorry. 3.6 billion. So 50% of the worldwide population has a mobile connection or a mobile subscription. Within the next 5 years, this number is going to go to 60%. So we're seeing tremendous growth in mobile adoption across the board. And most of this growth is happening outside of the US. So we're seeing that in emerging markets and newer markets, mobile is becoming the dominant platform for marketing today and reaching your customers and learning more about how we can engage with them, how they're using products, and how they're interacting with each other. In addition, we see that mobile has gone through a journey. Right? In the US, where desktop kind of led the way for internet penetration and internet adoption, mobile optimized was kind of the strategy. It was a bolt-on strategy, right? So we did everything on desktop, and then we created a mobile version of that. But what we're seeing is in newer markets, we're going mobile first and beyond. We're actually going to mobile only. So an example is Nigeria. Nigeria has 150 million mobile connections out of a population of 180 million, and it's going to increase from there, and it's going to be 2 mobile connections per user in that country within the next 10 years. And India reached 1 billion users earlier this year, 1 billion mobile subscriptions. A lot of that is feature phones, but those are going to be future smartphone owners. And we're seeing tremendous growth in India, and they're actually catapulting and leapfrogging desktop completely and becoming a mobile-only country. So when we think about export, and we think about moving outside of our home countries, if it's US or if it's in Latin America or other parts of the world, it's important to know that our current strategy that we're using has to be adapted for different market conditions. And access is growing globally, as we can see here, 74% year-over-year growth in mobile data usage. This is a phenomenal number, and it's being driven mostly with Middle East and Africa and APAC. So we're seeing a lot of growth of these mobile-first, mobile-only countries, and this is having an impact not only on the way people use the internet, but also on hardware as well. We talked about the Samsung example and the phones you could take into the shower and things like that. But we're seeing a lot of innovation. We're seeing that OEMs and service providers are adapting to the behaviors of users in these countries. And it's a huge opportunity for us. And we see this as well as Google. So we may have spoken to you at some point about your mobile moment. You know, we said it was 2013, then we revised the number, said it was 2014, then maybe pushed it to 2015. But in 2015, we saw 10 countries had more mobile queries than desktop queries. And this is pushing us at Google to innovate as well and become a mobile-first company and rethink how we create products and how we create services and how we engage with users all over the world. And it's really important to stay up to date on what's happening in these different countries. But every market is different. When we look at connection speeds at different markets, we see that they drastically vary. Right? So the US basically operating at 3G speed. If you look at the UK, tremendous connection speed. And a lot of this is due to infrastructure. A lot of this is due to government initiatives, consumer demand, the ability to spend more by consumers. But if you're a B2B customer and you drive web leads and you've seen success in mobile, and you decide that the US is a saturated market, you've done all you can, everything is perfectly optimized, and you want to find a different market to move into. And you've heard that maybe India or Brazil are really interesting. There's a lot going on there. If you take your current strategy and just kind of import it directly into these markets, you're not going to find success. We need to think about new ways of communicating given that connection speeds vary drastically. So you might want to think about click-to-call. You might want to think about chat or messaging and new ways of connecting with your customers. So these are part of the things that we need to think about and that are going to be incorporated into our framework. And even so, markets are different in many different ways, even beyond mobile. right? So we talked about GDP, and I know later we're going to have a discussion on macroeconomics, and these things are very fascinating, and maybe not core to how we think about marketing, but it is core to thinking about strategy. So if you look at GDP per capita and average age, India has average age of 27. That is phenomenal. That is such a young age for a country that big. The issue with averages, though, is it conceals a lot of information. So within these averages, there are upper tier, lower tier, different age ranges, different levels of affluence. But if you look at GDP per capita for India, it's 1,700. So that's pretty low, and that should kind of make you think about what is your strategy for entering into India, and how are we going to engage with these users. But huge opportunity there, and I'm going to show you an example in a few slides. So what, right? So we talked about insights, we talked about data, connection speeds, how big mobile is, the journey. Where this leads us is basically a framework that has 4 pillars that we really need to think about and master. And I would argue that before you enter in any new market, you should understand the context of these 4 pillars so you set yourself up for success. So the first one is user behavior. So this is how users engage with products, how users engage with services, and how users interact with each other. The second is speed. Speed is critical. We saw the connection speeds a few slides ago. It doesn't matter how good your website looks or how strategic it was or how much you spent on it or the KPIs and this and that. If the site is not fast, you're not going to see good performance. And the connection speed issue and the level of affluence and the GDP and all that kind of stuff does factor into the type of performance you might expect. So we really need to pay attention to speed. Business goals. So at a global level, we want to have some consistency. We want to have global KPIs. We want to have global brand guidelines. We want to have shared resources. These things make sense. But at a market level, we have to adapt, right? So our business goals might change in Nigeria, it might change in Japan versus US, your home country. So we need to think about these things. We need to pay close attention to what is our business goal and does it make sense and have we adapted it for that market. And then user experience. This is the design, right? We talk a lot about user experience and how our website's going to look and how we remove friction. And this is also a critical pillar for your export strategy. So for me, these are the 4 pillars that we need to think about and we need to understand the context of before we enter into a market so that we're set up for success. And I've spoken to customers who talked to me about export, and they've said they've seen poor performance in the past, and they didn't adopt this framework. They took their US strategy, put it in a different market, and then asked, why aren't we seeing the same level of performance? And the issue is bigger than that, and we really need to think about the context. So we're going to talk about speed today, and that's the one I'm going to focus on. And speed is critical to performance. And the numbers don't lie, as the slide says. So we have 2 examples here, Mozilla and Walmart. When Mozilla increased page speed by 2.2 seconds, they got an incremental 10 million downloads per year. That is absolutely phenomenal, 2.2 seconds. When Walmart got a 1% increase in page load time, that equated to a 2% increase in conversion rates. So when you think about the scale of Walmart, that is millions of dollars to their top line revenue. When you think about Black Friday and you think about holiday seasons and peak seasonality, that is absolutely instrumental to their success, and that's why page speed is so important. And with the same exact website, if you only focus on page speed, you're going to see an increase in performance. And we've seen it across every industry, every vertical, every workshop we've done with clients, every time we've made recommendations on mobile UX. When a client has improved page speed, we've seen firsthand that performance does go up. So how do we stack up? So I thought it would be fun today to pick 3 customers who are in attendance and run their websites at different connection speeds in different geographies throughout the world. So do we have Vimeo here? Vimeo, hey, how you doing? All right. And how about MailChimp? All right, MailChimp, cool. And CarGurus, I don't think CarGurus is here. So I picked these 3 customers really randomly, no reason whatsoever. They were just representative of a few different verticals. And I know the AMs and AEs are probably like, don't say anything bad about my customers right now. So don't worry, there's nothing bad here. So let's look at these 3 sites. Connection speed is 3G, and the location is the US. Raise your hand if you think these sites load faster than 5 seconds. All right, cool. Let's say like half the crowd, maybe a little bit less. And I guess everyone else is higher than 5 seconds. They all load faster than 5 seconds. Actually, these sites perform very well in the US at 3G connection speed. And I actually love all three of these sites. And I've referenced them in the past when we do kind of like mobile workshops when it's relevant. From a UX standpoint, I think they all do a really good job. And it's good to see they're paying attention to page speed. Now, what I did for other geos and other connection speeds is I use these same exact sites. So MailChimp very well may have an optimized site that's localized for South Africa, Brazil. But I just use this to illustrate my point. Just keep that in mind. So South Africa, 2G speed. Who thinks these sites load faster than 20 seconds? 20 seconds is a lot of time, right? OK. Look at this, 84 seconds for Vimeo. And this is publicly available data. So you can run any website. You can run google.com, which is very fast. And you get to 99 out of 100 on our page speed tool. Through this, and you can compare, right? You can develop benchmarks for your vertical in your industry. 84 seconds. I'm a big soccer fan. And if I want to watch a goal, a highlight on Vimeo, let's say, for example, that's like 10 seconds. Like, am I going to wait 84 seconds in South Africa? Probably not. So this is why we really need to pay attention to speed. Because if you figured everything else out, you have your localization nailed, you have your budgets nailed, you know everything you want to do, KPIs. If speed isn't there, you're not going to see the level of performance that you're going to want. And then the same story with Brazil. I'm just going to build this out a little bit better, but still 54 seconds, 53 seconds, very high numbers here. So we really need to pay attention to the nuances of the market, the different connection speeds, the different types of phone. And this is where GDP per capita comes into play. Can these customers afford higher end phones? And are they? And how do we find them? How do we target them and ensure that we're putting our sites in the right users' phones? So there is a good example here, someone that actually does design very well and speed very well, and that's Flipk. They actually worked with our Chrome team to do a progressive web app type of development, which is basically a mobile website with app-like features. And what this allows them to do is be able to offer things like offline access, right? So users can engage when they're not connected to the internet. They have a very fast site. They're able to do like installability, so taking your logo and adding it to the home screen of your phone. And also do push notifications, which is very new and awesome and a new way to engage with customers. And they're doing it in India, right? So we talked about India, $1,700 GDP and all that kind of stuff. It's possible to basically innovate and create a world-class website in India and develop learnings and also do business, right? Generate revenue, create opportunity. So this is one of the best websites for mobile out right now, and it exists in India, and I think it's a great example of how you can innovate, especially in newer markets, right? Maybe you don't want to touch, the U.S., your U.S. business, or maybe you don't want to mess with your home business because it's like working very well. Well, newer markets are a great testing ground, especially if it's new for you and a new way to develop and a new way to take advantage of new features. And this is a public case study, so feel free to go to their blog on Flipk to learn more about how they partnered with Google, learn more about the development and some of the cool things they're doing on the web in India. OK, but where should we start? So Google has led an initiative which really started with publishers to help them improve their page speed. So there was a New York Times article that came out sometime last year, late last year, that showed that even though the web is free, users are still paying for websites with their data plans. And it's because of ad load, and it's because of websites that load very slowly and basically have a lot of content. And publishers have video, they have social plugins, they have images, they have shareability, they have all these different things that make their sites run slow. So Google said, we can do better. All right, so we created an initiative where we partnered with the publishers to basically develop open source code that anyone could use and create lightweight websites, and it's called Accelerated Mobile Pages Project. Awesome opportunity for you to have a strategic conversation with your developers, talk to them about this, introduce this to them if they're not aware. Is everyone aware of this? Just a quick show of hands. Great, a couple people. So really interesting and open source again, right? So use this, have a conversation, test it in new markets. And on the publisher side of things, we're actually extending our code so that we can incorporate ad load on publisher sites as well in a very lightweight, streamlined way. So coming back to our framework, we talked about a lot of things today. And the four kind of key pillars, if you take away one thing today, it's hopefully not the names of the three ships that Christopher Columbus came on. Hopefully it's this framework. And you understand the context of the four pillars before you enter in any market. I think it's a very exciting time to be a marketer right now. There's so much happening in the mobile space, and I hope you take full advantage of it and partner with us to have a successful export strategy. Thank you very much.